This episode is for you if you are stuck in confusion around whether you should stay in your workplace and whether you want to stay in VetMed at all. So I really hate staying in confusion. I hate being in two minds about something, whether I should do something or not do something for a long time, because it just takes up so much brain power, constantly debating, should I do this, should I do that? It's like when you're in a relationship and you're not quite clear about whether it's what you want and whether you should have a breakup or a divorce, and you can spend years of your life just debating it, right? And when we are stuck or feel stuck in our workplace or in Vietnam in general, it's just such a big consumer of energy and emotional health and mental health. It's just such a drag. And I want to help you, give you some tools to help you find out whether you should leave or whether you should stay. There is no size fits all, and nobody can tell you. I can certainly not tell you whether this place where you're in is for you or not. And we also have to remember that there is no 100% good, 100% bad. So it's a question of getting your facts right and seeing where you are exactly instead of spinning in this like, shouldn't I, but I like, but I don't. And like really get a super clear perspective, and then you can make a informed decision. So let's start with whether you should stay in your current job or not. It's very important for me when I have clients coming in and they ask me this question to get the facts right. Because a lot of times there are so many mental constructs we have now built up around our workplace that it's difficult to say, is it actually a good thing or a bad thing? So we could say, oh, I just work so many hours. I never have time off. It's a really negative environment. They don't work properly. I don't have enough support, and so on and so on. But you need to pull it apart and you need to have concrete facts in order to see, is it just me that I'm working myself up and just interpret it like this, or is these the facts? So if you're debating whether to stay in your job or not, you need to look at what you're unhappy about and get your facts right. So if you think you're working too many hours, I want you to lock down the hours you are actually working day by day. And you may already, let me just start by saying this thing, oh, this is a lot of work, as if I have to write all this down. But trust me when I say that it is so much more hard work. Keep debating this with yourself without having your facts right. It's like being in an argument with someone and you don't actually know what happened and you trying to defend the case. It's just impossible, right? So you want to write down how many hours you work, and you want to see how many are overtime, like how much was I asked to work overtime, and so on and so on. If you think people are being really negative, quote unquote, at work, then write down such and such said this. I answered this, or somebody said this, or I heard this word so many times in a week. You could, for example, just say, I want to evaluate this week specifically, and then look at the facts from this week and see if it's right or not. If you think you have too many cases thrown at you and you don't have time to handle them, write down how many cases do you actually have? How many are in your name on the diary and how many get thrown at you, and different cases. You could even split them up and say like, well, boosters, more complicated cases, orthopedic cases, and so on. Just so you have whatever you're unhappy about, you have it in facts, in numbers on a sheet in front of you, and you can say, actually, yes, this is a lot, or it's not a lot. So once you have looked at what you're not happy about, then you want to set boundaries straight away. You want to take action and you want to see if you feel better once you have set these boundaries. So for example, if you're working 10 hours more a week than you want to, is this because those are just in your contract and then you would have to change your contract? Or is it because people are asking you to do more shifts? Or is it because you get out later because you stay behind writing your notes? So you need to find out exactly what are the hours you're working and why are you working those X hours more than you would like to work. And then you need to stop it. And if you can't because it's in your contract, well, then you have to debate, do I want to negotiate my contract? If not, and you really don't want to work all these many hours, well, then it's a clear question that you want to leave because you want to have more free hours in your time, right? If it's a question of, I am working a lot of overtime because they're asking me to, then if you don't want to work these hours, you need to say no. I know it's very simple and I know it's hard, but you need to say no, and you need to say, no, I only want to work these hours. Is it because of you, because you take quote unquote too many cases on, or it's because you spend too much time writing your notes? Then you need to set a boundary for yourself. Now, when it's also, for example, something like people are so negative, then you need to set a boundary for yourself in what you will be willing to listen to. For example, gossip. Are you going to engage in gossip? Are you going to not? What are the key words you don't want to hear? For example, if somebody says such and such is so lazy, or such and such never does anything, or such and such said, whatever it is, like you can say, okay, I promised myself I didn't want to engage in this negativity. And then you just have some phrases like, I don't really want to talk about that, or I don't think this is appropriate to talk about, or I don't engage in these types of conversations. Like, set some boundaries so you don't have to listen to the negativity. Because trust me, if you don't engage, if you're not an active listener, it will not reach you. It's like me watching the news. I don't watch them, so the negativity doesn't reach me, right? Um, in how people speak to you. If you think that somebody is speaking to you in a very negative manner, and that is a fact, you have written down, my manager said this, or the head nurse said this, or the other vet said exactly this, like, then set a boundary, like, I would not let you speak to me like this, or I am not available for this kind of phrasing, or if you speak to me like this, or if you say these words, I will leave, or like Jefferson Fisher, who I love, who really teaches communication skills. You can say, did you really mean to say that way? Or did you say that to be mean? Or did you say that to make me feel smaller? Or something like, cut through the crap, set some boundaries, and don't let people speak to you like that if that's one of your problems. And once you've decided on these boundaries, on these facts that you worked out in the beginning, then you have to go through the very extreme discomfort of upholding those boundaries. And often it is hard, it is so hard for us to do, or we perceive it to be so hard, that we will rather go through the discomfort day in, day out by working more hours, taking on more shifts, taking cases we don't want to, and letting people be negative around us and say shit to us, than actually go through the extreme but much briefer discomfort of setting boundaries. We feel it's so painful because we think that if we set boundaries, then something terrible is going to happen and people are not going to like us. But the case is, we already not liking ourselves by staying in a workplace we perceive that as something we might not want to stay in, right? So you want to set the boundaries and you want to go through the discomfort of upholding those boundaries. And yes, I know it's hard, but it's not as hard as being constantly discontent throughout your working life because you don't really like where you are, but you can't make your mind up to set boundaries or to leave, right? Also, I want to look at, when we talk about these things, are there any deal breakers? Like, are we talking about somebody abusing you, or you have like a really creepy boss that like touches your bum, or is there animal cruelty? Do they scruff cats and put them in, trap them in cages, or do you see somebody beating, like real deal breakers, or not letting you work to appropriate standard? For example, I saw a post from some vet techs where their vet would not allow them to wear gloves when doing anal glands. Blech. I mean, what? That would be a deal breaker for me. There's no way I would do them without gloves on. So, are there any deal breakers? And write them down. And if you see them written down and you wouldn't let your best friend go through that, then it's a deal breaker. It's clear you need to find another job. It's not something you want to work with unless you can change it, right? But if somebody's being cruel to animals, it's probably going to be difficult to change that if that's the policy of the clinic. Unless it's just one coworker, can you then get it addressed? Um, so that's kind of like the facts where you look at what do you think is wrong with this workplace, and why would I want that make me leave? Is it facts? And what could I change instead of like boundaries and things I want to change there? Um and then if it's still quite vague, and you're like, I want to leave because I think I can't put my finger on it, but I will just feel relieved. I'll feel better. Um then, is there any way that you could be where you are with the same external circumstances, which you have now written down the facts, and they're not that bad. It's just a feeling you have. You're just discontent. Is there any way you could feel this way now in your circumstances? And I want to give you an example that's not from work because I haven't had to do this at work for a long time. But for example, when I go traveling, there's a point now because I fly so much. Like going through security can sometimes be the biggest drag. And over Easter, I'm used to I'm used to traveling surrounded by people that kind of travel like me. There's a few holiday makers in between, but between the holidays, we are just a lot of people that are used to traveling. We just know, the whole liquid computer, this and the other, out, shoes, belts, whatever, and we just go through emotions and everybody just get on with it. But come holiday on this Easter, there was just so many kids traveling, people that didn't know jack shit about security. And the queues were immense and it was just getting warm and you can see people getting really stressed. And I could feel myself getting worked up and stressed and impatient and I don't want to go through this shit. And I was like, wait a moment. There's actually nothing bad happening right now. Like nobody is like throwing shoes at me or shouting at me or, there's nothing bad happening. I'm just getting annoyed over a lot of trivial little things. Do I want to feel annoyed right now? No. Is there anything I can do to change the situation? I would have had to book the fast track, which I'm too tight to spend money on, and it was too late anyway because now I was in the middle of the herd, right? So I can't do anything physical about it. Okay. Do I want to feel better right now as opposed to annoyed and worked up and stressed? Yes, I want to feel different. Okay, so what can I think? So I just went to another place where I just imagined, okay, I'm in the airport, I'm with Bruce, we're traveling together, we're going to a nice place, and we are, all this is just not happening. And I just stayed in that. I managed to get that feeling up of like excitement and traveling and happy. And that just completely changed my outlook. Because once I was able to tap into that feeling from thinking that the circumstances were different, I just enjoyed it. I was just happy. I was just smiling at people. I was not impatient. Whenever my brain tried to go, they should know better. They should be faster. Why are the security guards so rude and so on? I was just like flick back into, but it's fine. I'm fine. Everything is fine. We're good. And I guess you could call it gaslighting yourself a bit. But in this sense, I was getting annoyed for no reason. Like nothing bad was happening. I could tap into this feeling regardless of my circumstances. And I was just coaching a client on being paranoid about the phone because she used to have the mobile on her where she would have to go out to emergencies and the phone and I had this for years where I would hear the phone and my anxiety levels would just go through the roof. But like I explained to her, right now there could be like a zillion bad cases going on. There could be something you did wrong and an animal is dying right now because of it. But because you don't know about it, because people maybe don't call you or before you pick up the phone, until you know about it, you don't need to feel bad about it. And the thing is, we start getting anxiety and work up worst case scenarios when the phone rings for no reason because most of the times you pick up the phone and it's actually okay, right? Or you check your work emails and when you're at home because you're like one of these OCD people that just have to have it all under control and make sure nothing has gone wrong. And it's very rare that you get a phone call or a message that is completely life changing and puts your whole career in jeopardy, right? So we can have, the phone or we can have the work email there and we don't need to feel stress, anxiety or fear about it. And we can still feel good even if the external circumstance still is there, but we can decide that we want to feel different. That's what I'm getting at with your work. Like even if maybe there's some gossip and maybe it's a bit busy sometimes, or maybe some of the clients are a bit dipshits, but you don't have to feel bad about it. Can you tap in to some other feeling of being determined, of feeling accomplished, of being content, of just being neutral, even if your external circumstance don't change. And bear in mind, I'm not trying to get yourself to gaslight yourself. Like if there's really horrible things happening and they're making you work 100 hours a week, I'm not saying just be happy with it. But when you write your facts down, you can actually put your finger on something factually bad happening, or you realize that you are the one that's making it happen because you allow it to happen and you don't set boundaries until you kind of change things around. Can you tap into another feeling? Can you make yourself feel different even before your external circumstances change, right? And as I've talked about in VetMed itself, I wrote a post about how horrified my mom was when I said I was going to leave VetMed. at that point, I was way past it. There was no way nobody could convince me otherwise. And I was like, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm sorry you get upset. And I know you know that I wanted to be a vet forever, but right now I cannot be in it. I need to go out because I was so stressed and burned out. And thank God I did because, as you might have heard the podcast from last week, you know, Carrie, the vet there, she was going through a lot of thoughts and feelings that I was also going through before I kind of broke out of vet med. And her solution was to try and find a non-desirable exit, where in my case, I decided to leave vet med. So if you're in a case that you're feeling so bad that you really want to leave vet med, that you think it's almost life or death for you to leave VetMed. Like, what is it that is holding you back? Like, you write the facts down and it's just awful. You want to leave. And apart from financial factors, even like short of your kids, starving to death, there's really nothing that should keep you in a position that you cannot leave your job or you can't leave VetMed. There's nothing worth your mental health and emotional health and your life, to stay in a job where you really don't want to leave. And if the reasons you don't leave your job or don't leave VetMed at all are because you don't want to disappoint others. You don't want to disappoint your mom, God forbid. You don't want to disappoint your family. You don't want to disappoint yourself. You think it's a failure. I can't leave because I've said I wanted to be a vet all this time and and I don't think I can leave because, what would that mean about me? Bear in mind that these are all mental constructs and you don't actually know if your mom's going to say, well, thank God you decided to quit because I couldn't stand watching you so burned out, right? You just don't know. And I think a lot of times we stay no, I know for a fact that we stay in a place because of what we imagine, we project what other people are going to think about us. And it's crazy because it's so much more important what you think and your happiness is so much more important than what other people might potentially think about you one day because they think about who you were in another time. So when we decide to leave or to stay, it's not bad, it's not right, it's not wrong. There's nothing black or white about it. It's only what you can decide with yourself is right for me right now. And it could be that you change, right? If you leave that med, you could come back in like me and other clients I've had that had to leave because they were just so burned out and stressed that, when you're in it, you can't see a way out. So you just need to put yourself on the side, take a time out, bring yourself to a place where you feel stable, where you feel content again, you have this like inner power back, and then you can come back and now you know how to set boundaries. Now you know how not to please everybody. Now you know all these things, right? And you can have cases that go bad, shit hits the fan, and you can be in it because it doesn't mean that you're a terrible person anymore, right? So you get your facts right, write them down, do this work up front, journal on it, write it down, set your boundaries, go through the extreme discomfort of upholding your boundaries. And if you cannot uphold them because people are just stepping right over them and not taking into account any of your feelings or what you want to do, well, that's a sign as well that you need to leave, right? And not setting the boundaries because you don't want to upset anybody, but then you don't like being in your work. So you kind of shuffle along. It's better to then, set your boundaries, have the fight you need to have, and then you have a clear message. I don't want to be in this job. Okay. And with VetMed, the same. If you're staying because you're worried about what other people might say, but you are feeling terrible right now, you can't sleep, you're not enjoying anything, well, again, get your facts right, look at it and see how you feel. And if you're not that bad that you just feel a discontentment and a bit like, but your facts actually okay, then look at how can I tap into another feeling? How can I think about this differently to carry me through until I can kind of find my feet a bit and get better at setting boundaries, getting better at speaking up for myself, getting better at handling things. But how can I feel better while I learn to do this? That was it for this time. And again, I want to say that I have upcoming retreats. I have one in June in Denmark and I have one in September in Spain. So check out the dates. I'll put them in the show notes. It is like an all intensive where we're only going to be 4 people. So I can work with each of you really intensely, personally, and you're also going to learn from the other vets that are going to be there. We are going to have the same chats. They are going to have the same, very similar problems to you. And just seeing somebody else solve for their problems with other words, with under other circumstances, just opens up our brain so much for solutions. So it's not like you're going to come to the retreat and I'm going to say, well, you should do this. But the way then when you work on it so deeply and you just face on all your problems, face on everything you're thinking, face on all this stuff you're dealing with, and then you see other people doing the same. I mean, man, the power behind that is just, mind blowing. And I invite you to come and do this work. And even if you know you don't want to leave VetMed, that's great. Let's teach you the tools to stay and be super grounded and super firm and happy in VetMed as many years as you want. If you're debating whether to leave or not, great. Let's find out. Let's make a decision and on the retreat, right? And if you want to leave VetMed, well, let's find out how can you do it and where would you transfer to, and and try and feel good through it all, because life is always going to throw shit at us, whether you're in VetMed or whether you're out of it. And learning the tools to handle yourself and handle life, that no going back. Once you have learned them, that's it. So check those dates out. And if you have any suggestions for this podcast, I would love for you to fill out a form I've created where you can ask questions or just suggest anything you would like me to discuss. That link is also in the show notes. So let me know and see you next week. Take care. Bye.